In this video, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and make the spring for your pen project. The springs that most pens have are multi-pitch, which means they have a little tight area at one end, they have a wider area in the middle, and they have that tight area again at the other end. You're going to have measurements for all of those, and I'll show you in a separate video on how to collect that. Again, with all of my videos, you got to remember that these numbers that I'm going to use are totally made up. You have to use the numbers that you need off of your pen. To start off this spring, what we're going to do is we're going to have to create some geometry to give us a base for our curve, which will be a helix. We're going to start with the top plane, and we're just going to create a new sketch on that. And this is where you're going to put a circle in the middle. And that circle needs to be the diameter of your spring. If you take the outside diameter of your spring, this is what we're going to measure that to. And I'm just going to use a made up number. And then once we have that, we go ahead and we exit the sketch. That's all we need right now. The next step is going to be creating this actual curve. So if you go up here on the features toolbar and you hit curves, you're going to go down to helix and spiral. And you'll notice that it takes our sketch that we just did and it starts to put in a preview. Let me turn it a little bit. You can see where it's starting to do this yellow preview of where our helix is. Now we need to use a variable pitch. So we're going to switch this to variable pitch. And it gives us our starting and where we're ending. And what you'll need to know is how many coils you have, how many turns around, and that'll give you the information for the revolutions. And then the diameter is going to stay the same because we have the same diameter all the way up. The pitch is what's the distance between those curves, the distance between the actual revolutions. If your first set had, let's say, 4, so you would go 0 to 4 is going to have the same pitch. The diameter will stay the same, and if you look in the preview, it gets all of a sudden gets really big. But this is a tight pitch. So the distance between your revolutions is going to actually be just a little bit more than the diameter of the wire that's used to create the spring. So if the wire that's being used is, let's say, 0.1, we're going to do a diameter of a pitch of 0.15 just to give ourselves a little bit of space. If you'll notice, it gets relatively small. Now it only changed the end, and that's because we need to also change the pitch at this 0, because 0 is also being defined by that same piece. And so if we change our view here a little bit, you can see now I have very tight. I have 4 over here, I have 5 over here. That's okay. If your spring isn't exactly like the one you have, that's okay. Now we need to go to the next set. So our next coil will be however many you have of the wide ones. Let's say you have 8 wider coils. So we'll say we're starting on 4, so that's going to take us to number 12. The diameter will stay the same at 1.5, but this is where the pitch will be the distance between those wider coils. So we'll say we'll go like 0.8. And then we'll zoom out a little bit, and you can see right there we have from this one to this one, we have our wider pitch. Now we need to define the other end. So what we can do is we can say from revolution number 13, it's going to be 1.5, and we're going to go back to our original pitch, which is 0.15. And then we're going to come back, and then we have 4 more of those. So we'll say to 17 at 1.5, and it is 0.15. And so there at the very end, you see the tight section. Okay, so there's our coil. Once we're done there, we say OK. Okay, so now we have this helix. And what we need to do is create the solid. We're going to come over here, we're going to choose the front plane, and we're going to draw a sketch on this. And I'm going to give myself a view that's normal to it. And I'm going to zoom in down here. Now what we want is we want to have a circle that is the diameter of the wire, and that circle needs to be out here where the wire would be. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to dimension this, and I think I said that was going to be 0.1. So I'll place my 0.1. And what I can do is I can give myself a dimension from there to the center. And this dimension would be half of what my coil is. And since my coil was 1.5, I'm going to say that this is 0.75. Now I'm going to go ahead and exit this sketch. And now I need to sweep my circle along that path. So I'm going to go swept boss, and it's going to choose my sketch that I have, and then I'm going to click in here to choose my path. And I click on my path, and then I say OK. And there's my spring. And that's how you make a variable pitch spring in SolidWorks.